I love squad members, I can't act cool. I like my bitches short and thick and ain't gotta act rude. She won't treat me like I'm the rest cause I ain't that dude. I see some things as a child, I change my thoughts, but I try to do right, I'm on the ass and I won't fucking let up. Here from the side, just don't be lazy, lift your fucking leg up. To all my niggas going through a struggle, keep your fucking head up. Anything you going through, I'm a witness, it won't last forever. Just stay down and won't do side, don't change the life for weather. If he around me, then he got a ruler, but he ain't trying to measure. I got it in here, need some weed to get my thoughts together. Hard in the summer, but my heart cold, so I got a rock sweater. We came in this roll it on, so we ain't gon' leave life together. I know I'm blessed, I know my worth, so I can never settle. You can show yourself a boy, only time can take. More kid, you one time to fuck up, and you can't go here. More deal, I got too many steps to bring us home here. No deal, I won't send my soul ain't how I go here. I won't school to stay loyal to my niggas and my face, they to the cool here. Just a new 40 on my shirt, the bitch a blow here. Just a different dope inside this love, we get the low here. Smoking on some dope, put the gun, you got a joke in. Like a bitch, like a receiver, put the bitch emotion. I'm drinking on some shit, I change the mood, we call it ocean. Can't even hide 30 in the clip, it be poking. And I walk them beat, we got some smooth, they get it going. White girl playing with her low, Lynch and no hand. My little cousin slipped up and lost her baby, she was 16. Ain't doing shit for free, I want 200 for a 16. Block with a day, 30 clip with a red bean. She make it hard for me cause all that niggas sold a big dream. Only gon' tell behind no shit you saying that you ain't me. All my niggas slide, you know what's up, that you can play me. I see the picture, clear my life, I'm moving like it's HD. I'm 150K streams and I ain't got no books on say cheese. Light a little weapon when I up it, better say cheese. This life taught me some lessons, but the school I want a degree. I'm just trying to take care of my people, how you hate me. One of them got caught with that, let's leave this shit was crazy. Bitch, the trap baby shit don't do that.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? I want to thank everybody for joining us for episode number 49 of the Get Hooked podcast. As always, this is your boy Hook.
And this is your favorite black girl. Juneteenth, Gemini season is Crystal in the building.
You sure you black? I don't know.
According to 23andMe, I'm Nigerian. And
All right, so this Saturday, right, June 19th, we will be celebrating Juneteenth. So if a lot of you are unfamiliar with it, if you don't really know a whole lot about it, don't even really know what it is, don't even worry about it. We got you covered here. We're going to be discussing the significance of the holiday and hopefully, give you some game or drop some nuggets on exactly what the holiday is. But we have our resident expert here who's going to tell you about it. But Chris, what do you think about it?
Juneteenth is big for a lot of us, and I think it's even bigger after what we experienced last year. After seeing so much, I mean, not that we haven't experienced a lot anyway, but COVID made us sit home and made us watch and made us look at the importance of Black lives. You know, we come in peace, but we mean business, like Janelle Monáe said. So I think that this year, usually since we've all grown up, Independence Day, July 4th, has been the biggest holiday of the summer for us next to Memorial Day. So this year, I think we need to make as much noise about Juneteenth as we do the other Independence Days.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. We're going to go ahead and allow our guest to introduce herself. So Tina, go ahead and tell the people who you are.
Unmute her.
Oh, my bad.
Hey guys, how you doing? Of course, I'm Tina Torres. I am the Juneteenth Logistics Director here for the South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Fest. I am also Ms. South Carolina Plus America, and I'm also the founder and CEO of She Did That Events LLC, and She Did That Community Advocate Foundation. It's an honor to be here with you guys.
Thank you, thank you. Tina, you must have your phone near you. We can hear it on Facebook.
What's that?
The live on Facebook.
I don't hear it now though, so I think we're okay. All right, and for the audience, make sure you guys react. Make sure you share. Make sure you comment. We do want to read your comments, and also make sure you subscribe to the podcast here on Facebook, across all podcast platforms, and also on YouTube. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get this thing started. So the first question I have is, and Tina, if you want to elaborate on some of this for us, since you're the resident expert, what is Juneteenth and why is it important?
Well, Juneteenth is in regards to the slaves in Texas who did not know that they were free a couple years later after the fact. And so when, in Galveston, Texas, when they found out, it became a celebration at that moment. And since then, they constantly every year are getting together in regards to their freedom. Normally people think that July 4th is all of ours freedom, but basically it is not. And so therefore it is important for us to understand why Juneteenth exists, because there is no more powerful force than people steeped in their history, and there is no higher cause than honoring our struggle and ancestors by remembering. So it's important for us to remember. And for those that may not know, it's important for you to understand and be able to spread the message as well. Juneteenth is one of the few celebrations we have that does just that. One of the more widely recognized emancipated celebrations. It is a time for reflection and rejoicing. It is also a time for community assessment, self-improvement, and planning for the future. Juneteenth commemorates and emphasizes education, freedom, and the overall achievement of African Americans. Across our country, the contributions of African Americans continues to enrich every facet of American life. The Juneteenth, we pay tribute to the enduring and persevering spirits of African Americans. That, sir, is Juneteenth.
And it's a big deal. It was, in 1980, Texas made it a holiday, but it wasn't until last year when we watched somebody's knee sit on somebody else's neck and watched them die for 9 minutes. It wasn't until last year when they had to block off the White House. It wasn't until last year when we had to sit at home and watch all hell break loose before South Carolina and several other states acknowledged it. So it is definitely important for us to realize it took a long time. Sam Cooke has been a long time coming. It is definitely time for all of us to acknowledge that its time is here. It's a time for us to celebrate. We celebrate everything else.
Exactly. Everything else.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really speaks volumes, and I'm a history major, so obviously this is near and dear to me. So Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves in the United States in 1862. It became effective in 1863. So whole 2 years later, in Galveston, Texas, General Gordon Granger, he and the Union Army, they traveled to Texas because obviously there was no, think about the time period, right? There's no social media, obviously. So it took a while. But Texas is way over there, and we got the southern states here, so it took a while until word reached them. So these people over here living 2 whole years after the fact, they still living in slavery, but
700 days later, you right. Still out there getting your butt whipped, and it's illegal.
Exactly. Slavery had been abolished. So obviously when they found out, imagine somebody coming up to you saying, hey man, slavery is over with, so you're free to do what you want to do. You know what I mean? And that started the Great Migration and stuff like that. But again, it's crazy. And you guys mentioned July 4th, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But for so many years, we celebrated July 4th as our Independence Day. But the fact is, our ancestors weren't free during that period of independence. That may have been the Independence Day for the country itself, but not for Black people. So this, in and of itself, Juneteenth is really our legit Independence Day. And why do you guys think, why are people seemingly just finding out about it? 1865, this is 2011. Why don't people really know about Juneteenth?
So the kicker that gets me about Juneteenth is You're talking about well over almost 150 years later, and you're sitting here wondering, well, why don't we know what they knew or different times? At a time, there was a time that Black people did celebrate Juneteenth, but somewhere in the way of the world, it got away from us. And then we stopped being taught Juneteenth. Because I'll be honest with you, I heard a little bit of Juneteenth in school when they said it took 2 years for the slaves in Texas to find out, and everybody was like, whoa, and that's it. Nothing in school ever told me that Juneteenth was a holiday. I never went into a store and saw, Juneteenth all over the store as much as I saw red, white, and blue and Independence Day. It was never marketed in my face like the other holidays. It's not on my holiday calendars. It's not out there like you see it other places. So I feel that we as a people stopped teaching it to our generations below us ourselves. Because when we went looking, you can see old pictures of old celebrations, but I promise you this, until I started with the social media era, I didn't grow up celebrating Juneteenth.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about Juneteenth at all.
But we all saw the Real Master 3000 sandals on the 4th of July.
And I think the key thing here is, like, in school, as Crystal alluded to, we learned about the Emancipation Proclamation. We know that our teachers, they painted this picture, or history has painted this picture, that Lincoln was this great savior who freed Black people. And granted, he did the deed by issuing the Emancipation Proclamation, but he did it for selfish reasons. He knew that it would cripple the South, so he did it because he wanted the Union, obviously, to win the war. He didn't do it because he loved Black people so much. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he owned his own slaves. But I think that, and like you said, they aren't going to teach it to us in school. So at this point, we have to take the reins, and we have to really begin, teaching this to our kids. And so, how do we celebrate Juneteenth, or how is it celebrated? Because Crystal, I know you mentioned, like, back, sometime back in the day, maybe decades ago, we did celebrate it, but somehow we got away from it. So how do we celebrate it then, and how should we celebrate it now?
Embrace your culture. For once, stop acting like it's too Black. It's not too Black to barbecue. It's not too Black to be outside with loud music. It's not too Black to celebrate that you're Black. It's not too Black to celebrate freedom. We should have all the little fireworks stands need to be open on Juneteenth so we can shoot them then too. Celebrate however we choose to celebrate. It's like our birthday. It's us. But I feel that the reason we don't know how to celebrate it, I'm going on my soapbox. Black has been taught it's wrong. If you see the color white, it's clean, it's pure, it's right, it's great, it's glorious. If you see Black, it's dark, it's bad, and it's evil. So when we're talking about celebrating a Black holiday, we don't get loud. We don't walk around with Black Lives Matter shirts, and you might see it, but you won't wear it to work. You scared to wear it different places. It's just we don't embrace it. It's not a bad thing. It's not a fight. It's not coming out to say it's illegal. I'm not saying all hell about to break loose. I'm saying I'm celebrating that I am who I am. And I don't think we acknowledge that, whether you got 100%, which, by the way, none of us over here got 100%. So we all got something mixed in us. I'm gonna come off at 10. I promise I will. That Willy, Lynch, and that colorism really bothers me. But we all have something in us to celebrate. There is a part of us that struggled, that suffered, that used to sing, to speak. There are Black men who are running around here as descendants of Black men who used to have to watch their women get raped and beat and could not say nothing just so they could live, to be there to raise kids. Celebrate as loud, as proud, and as joyful as you want to, because we've earned this.
Absolutely. What about you? Like, how do you think we should celebrate Juneteenth?
I think we should celebrate it as loud as we celebrate everything else. I mean, we celebrate people coming out of jail. So why couldn't we not celebrate Juneteenth, right? Yeah, I mean, they throw a big old fish fry when somebody comes out of jail. Mm-hmm. There's divorce parties that are loud. Everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. But But when it comes to this right here, Juneteenth, it's like oh, I didn't know we could do that. Well, I mean, it comes a point where we got to stop saying what we didn't know and start searching what we should know. And so, and I'll be honest, when I moved here, I didn't know anything about Juneteenth. It wasn't until I met the founders of the South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Fest, Carmen and Jamal Bradley. When I met them, that's when I learned about Juneteenth. I didn't even know about racism until I moved to South Carolina. I didn't know any of that. So for me, apparently. And so,
welcome to the dirty South, baby.
I'm learning. And so, you know, I've been working on this committee for 4 years now, and I have learned so much. And I'm constantly like trying to get people to understand what Juneteenth is. But every day I learn something new. And if I don't learn something,
that your most racist people look like you.
Yes.
We're not talking about that.
They do.
Sip my tea.
They don't want to talk about that. So, but I feel like you should celebrate it as loud as you do everything else. Because, I mean, we talk about what others don't do or do against us, right? But yet we don't take the time to learn what we need to learn in order to be as loud when it comes to Juneteenth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think because I first learned about Juneteenth when I was in college. It was like right after I pledged my fraternity, and some local, I guess, people came to our campus and they were like, "Hey, we want you guys to come perform for us for Juneteenth." And so we all looking at stuff like, "What the hell is Juneteenth?" So I began researching it, and again, me being a history major, I was really enamored with it. Like, okay, this really happened. So I'm like, the whole time we celebrating July 4th, but June 19th is really our true Independence Day. And you know, when I started talking to people about it and advocating for it, I won't say I got backlash, but it was more so people like really trying to, Black people obviously trying to discount my knowledge, saying, "Well, how long you known about it? Ain't like you known about it your whole life." I'm like, it's not even about that. It's not about who knew about it the longest, but I'm telling you, this is simply a holiday that we need to embrace and that we need to celebrate. And since in some form or fashion, if throughout the years I've celebrated Juneteenth, but obviously the major holiday that we celebrate is July 4th. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna take my day off, and I'm going to enjoy it. But at the same time,
all 8 hours.
I think that we should be just as ecstatic about June 19th as we are about July 4th.
Mm-hmm. I think the problem too is we as Black people are so busy shaming what we don't understand that we don't embrace it. The sad thing is you were in college. Some of us were grown, when we really understood or even took the time to figure out what Juneteenth was. And instead of people going, well, like you celebrated your whole life, it's a shame we didn't know about it. Blue's Clues is teaching people about Kwanzaa. Why in the world didn't we hear about this?
I mean, I can tell you why I didn't hear about it, but I'm not going to get on my soapbox. But it's the same reason that we miss out on a lot of Black history in school. You know, they're very selective about what they teach us. And like when I was in college, I did ruffle a few feathers because I went to a predominantly white school. And whenever they taught something that I knew was a bunch of was complete and utter bullshit, I called them out on it. And it was, you know, I was always respectful, but at the same time, I wanted them to know, even though they would not tell the class, the professors, they would not tell the truth, but they knew they weren't messing with no dummy. You know what I'm saying? So they knew
they weren't telling the truth when they had you coloring that ship talking about Christopher Columbus. Never mind.
Yeah, that guy. Exactly.
You discovered something that's already there.
So for each of you two, right? What does Juneteenth mean to you? Like, what? Not just significance, not the significance it should have with all Black people, but for you specifically, what does Juneteenth mean to you two individually?
You want me to be honest with you?
Mm-hmm.
After learning about the struggles that Black people had with Juneteenth itself was not exciting. It was the start. You know, after Juneteenth, it's just like when you talk about in the Bible when they were freed from slavery in Egypt and they wandered for all those years. We did the same thing. We didn't have, it wasn't like we got out of slavery. We was like, whoo, child, all right, well, let me see if Walmart hiring. No, they couldn't figure out what to do. They had nowhere to live. They had no land. They had nothing. So they wandered, and we ended up being free labor. We just weren't called slaves. It was kind of like the struggle didn't really end. The fight began. So to look back now, to look up and see Kamala, to look up and see Barack, to look over and see, Stacey Adams, to look over and, just to see Abrams, to see different people all over the place doing different things, to see that you talk about going from college, to see Tina over here working with different people, to watch us all be where we are, managers, leaders, developers, business owners, entrepreneurs, to watch Black Wall Street come down and then Black people still come up. That is the Juneteenth moment. That's why when we did the promo, I said power. That's where we was now, but we living in this 21st century doing something mean to it. That's when Juneteenth gets exciting, because after they got out, that shit wasn't easy. They still was struggling. We built the Biltmore estate off free labor.
Absolutely. Well, what about you? What about you, Tina? What does Juneteenth mean to you?
It means opportunity, because back in the day, of course, they didn't have that. And even though they were free, supposedly free, they still suffered. And they suffered so much. And opportunities that should have been theirs was constantly snatched away every single time. People were still being hung to death, and homes being blown up, and women being raped at an all-time rate, all because of power, right? So when you say power now, we now have the power to make a difference. Now, some of us choose not to do that, but that's that individual. However, what I see now is opportunity, tons and tons of opportunity to be able to do what you want, how you want to do it, and continue to be able to leave legacies for kids behind you. I think that sometimes we choose to stay in a slave mind mentality because we keep thinking that we can't, when in all actuality we can, and we keep wanting to say, oh, well, you didn't do that all your life. That's okay though. I know now. And because I know now, I'm able to make a difference. So that's an opportunity for me.
Absolutely.
And it should be an opportunity for any and everybody else too.
Absolutely.
So that's, for me,
it should be a constant reminder. That reminder, some of us are those special kids. We those kids that when you tell me what I can't do and what I won't do, I'm going to do it twice and take pictures just to show you. It's our time to have that mentality. You told me I couldn't go nowhere. You told me I couldn't be a human. You told me I couldn't work. You told me I couldn't read. I couldn't write. Now we reading, writing, and doing everything else with books. And not only are we doing that, we're teaching it. So it's a reminder of what you were told you would never be and how far we've come. Yet we still got far to go, but we've come a mighty long way. It's a celebration of nobody died in vain.
Yeah. And the fact is, when you know better, you do better. So it's okay to, even if you're watching this podcast and you're just finding out about Juneteenth, it's okay that you didn't know. But now that you know, what are you going to do with that information? How are you going to empower your people? And how are we going to teach these kids about where they came from? We don't know where we're going if we can't appreciate where we've been. And we have to understand, and we know that our history in this country has not been easy. And a couple of things you guys even touched on, because even with like lynchings and killings of Black people, that shit didn't stop, in 1865. It's even going on today, because imagine slave owners, they treated us as if we weren't even a whole person. They looked at us as being 3/5 of a human being. So imagine, you at this place where Black people were prohibited from, now they're free to go there. You're gonna feel a certain kind of way, So then they took they took those aggressions out, and then they were still lynching and killing people. And even part of the Emancipation Proclamation, they actually encouraged the slaves to remain with their slave owners, not as slaves, but as workers. Because I think about workers, it, they have shit. But the thing is, though, because with Black people, with the slaves, but in particular, they raised the slave masters' kids. They cooked all their meals. They freed labor, so they knew that our ancestors had the requisites skills to get it done, but they didn't want that. They wanted to keep them in. They wanted to keep in that slave mentality, which is part of that mentality that we even have today. So, you know, when we
that
talk about
idea that
slavery,
you have to be a dependent.
right,
That
right,
that
like,
dependent mentality. If you do this, I'll take care of you. If you do this, I give you a place to stay. If you stay right there, I give you a check. If you do like this, I'll do that for you. It's the same thing here. Oh, you free?
Yep.
Great. Where you gonna live at? You gonna put them babies in the cold? If you still work on this thing, I'll let you stay right in that little shotgun shack you living in. It's the same mentality. So it's kind of that idea right now that many of us are like, you don't have to give me a seat at your table. I'm gonna go build my own. It's
Exactly.
that fire that should be up under so many of us from it. Juneteenth has so many different meanings, but if we don't take nothing else from it, it's don't tell me what I cannot do, because you told them what they couldn't do, and look at what we're still doing. We lost some soldiers on the way. God knows we did. Some people lost their minds, their lives, and their pride, as well as their self-esteem, because of what they
Right.
went through. But we've gone from surviving to thriving. We had a generation that used to stay together and get married and work together and live together just because they had to survive that way. We ain't got to do that no more. We can
Nope.
thrive on our own. And now we're entering a new era. These kids here ain't nothing like the ones back then. We have to celebrate evolving.
they
Right.
want us to they want us to keep this mentality like we should just be grateful that you know we get to indulge in some of the luxuries that they've enjoyed since the beginning of time. But the fact is, I don't care who you are, you know what the hue of your skin is. It doesn't matter. You are no better than me, and you're not. And that's the message I'm laying to my kids. I don't care what these people say at school. I don't care what the teachers say. The fact is, you have to know who you are, and you have to appreciate that. And Tina, I want to ask you, because again, I know that the Freedom Festival, you said you've been working with that for what, 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, this is year 4 for me.
All right. So, how long has the Freedom Festival been going on?
Carmen and Jamal started it 5 years ago. And when it happened 5 years ago, they had one vendor and 45 people in attendance. And it happened at a lot right next to Harambe down in 5 Points.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had a meeting. Like I met them after that. And then came on board as a person that would help with promotions and marketing and with some of the logistics. And the second year, we had about 400 people and we had about like 20 vendors. And then year 3, year 4, even through the pandemic, we had about maybe 30, maybe about 30, 35 vendors, and we had 4,500 people. So this would be year 4 for me, but year 5 for Carmen and Jamal, the founders of the South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Fest.
Okay, so it's not, it hasn't been going on that long, but it's not like something that was thought of yesterday, right? So obviously there
No.
is, right.
No,
There
no, no,
is some
no.
information.
So they're originally from up north. And up north, they on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in some
Absolutely.
states, especially like New York, Pennsylvania. So when they came here, Carmen found out that they didn't celebrate Juneteenth here in South Carolina. So her dream and her goal was to try to figure out how can we or how can they bring it here and be able to do something with it. And so the first year when they did it, not many people knew about it, right? South Carolina is probably one of the most suppressed states I've ever been in. And so, they so far backwards, like Disney World was supposed to be here, and I didn't even know that. Just found that out a couple of days ago. But anyway, so um, so they started it. And it was because of their love for the history of Juneteenth and the love of wanting to educate others about Juneteenth, the importance of, who we are, where we come from, and why Juneteenth exists. It was so important for them to let us know that. And so ever since then, I've been on their team. Like I wouldn't leave their team. Like it's amazing, but no, it's not new. Um, and the reason why now you see it popping up everywhere so much now, I got to give credit to the man that was a president not too long ago, because of him thinking it was a great idea to go to, Texas to do some type of speech or something, and him having to be told that that was Juneteenth, then he put it out in the news, and from there now everybody is learning about it. Everyone. So you'll see things popping up everywhere about Juneteenth now.
Right. And when you when you went to the event and you saw what they were doing and you decided to get involved, what really sparked you? Like what happened during that event where you were like, you know what, I have to be involved in this?
What
Well,
triggered your
actually,
passion?
I didn't know about it. So I wasn't there. I didn't make it there. So
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't know. I didn't know about it. Somebody told them about me as an event planner coordinator, and so we had a meeting, and that is when I was like, "What is Juneteenth?" And that is when I learned about Juneteenth. Um, I wasn't a sheltered child, but I was not a child that lived in areas where there was anything that indicated race problems or
Mm-hmm.
race situations.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a military brat. So I've been to Germany, Turkey, couple of base installations, and there was never an issue in front of me when it came to race. It wasn't until I moved to South Carolina that I learned that there was a race issue. Even as a kid, reading the little blurbs in history book, you read it, you kept going, because in my mind, I'm sitting next to a white person, I'm sitting next to a Puerto Rican person on the other side, and to me, we not having no issues, right? So I didn't know that there was an issue. So again, I didn't know about the first festival. So when we sat and we talked about it, that's when I learned about it, and I've been on it ever since. The reason why I became involved was because at that moment I was going to learn more about me, more about my history, more about um, Rosa Parks and all the things that happened way back then. So for me, that's why I stayed on, so that I could continue to learn about who I am way back then. Because I'm not here solely just because of whatever. I'm here because somebody paved the way. Not just somebody, a ton of people paved the way for me to be here. So I need to continue to pave the way for others to be able to get to where I'm at and keep going.
Yeah,
I think that's something that we don't acknowledge enough. I think we do need to learn more about ourselves. I wish everyone would get an ancestry or a moment of something where they can go and realize who they are, where they come from, and learn more about your own people. For me, my aha moment was I was sitting down one night because I'm nosy. My family will tell you I'm the kid that will find a brown needle in the haystack because I'm that kid. So one night I paid the ancestry fee and I sat up for 7.5 hours on a computer and I dug all in my grandma's history because her family was the side that I know. And so I went all the way up to the 1700s because my grandma had always told us there's Irish in our family. There's Irish in our family. Well, lo and behold, I did do the genetic testing and she's right. I do have, I'm 80%, it's 80-20, 80% black, which the Nigerian and all that, that side of me. And then there's 20% Irish. So I was like, well, where did it, and I learned that recently how much of it's in there, but I knew from her it was there. So I dug all into her information and I found where in the 1700s, the family that we descended from that was from Ireland. And then I saw where they came up north and they realized that Alabama had a lot of prim land, all tobacco, you name it, they had it. Money was down south. So they came down south and one of them was named Sam. Sam was the son. Sam's plantation was where we were. So here's his family that came down. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, where'd the black come in at? Boom. Sam was messing with what was on his plantation. And so then I started to see where he was messing with one of his slaves. She got pregnant. She had two girls. One of them became my grandma's mom. And then my grandma came. So you saw them, and then you saw mulatto, 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 Negro, 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 and then here we are. So it's where I started to realize the mixture came in at, where all the stuff was different. But then, when you start trying to dig in our side, unfortunately, records got lost, and you can't too much see where the Nigerian or where the Liberian or even the ones who are with us from Sierra Leone, I can't see where they kind of descended in from. But when I did the genetic testing, I could tell they were there. And when you start digging in your history and you realize, yeah, I love Rosa Parks. Yes, I love Dr. King. Yes, I love Malcolm X. But when I start realizing that I had people who were arrested locked up, who were beat, who were murdered, who came up missing, who you have women in our family who can't find their husbands on the census. That's when I started to want to know more, because that's when my family name mattered. That's when it was a part of me that got here. That's when I realized that we have been stuck in Alabama, shouts out to Huntsville, for decades. And then all of a sudden, boom, my grandma and her generation got married to military men, and then we're all over the place. And now we're everywhere. But that's when I realized the struggles that my bloodline went through to get to where we are. And then you couldn't tell me stop. You couldn't tell me no. You can't tell me what I can't do, because I owe this to those who didn't make it before me.
So my mom, I'm sorry, Hook. My mom has a book that it's rice paper. It's a rice paper. I call it a rice paper book, because back in the day they wrote on rice paper, and so she has a book that's dated so way back, and we are not allowed to touch it because it's very fragile.
Mm-hmm.
And so you touch it or whatever, it'll almost disintegrate in a sense. So we try not to, we don't touch it. But when she's able to turn the pages, we see things, and I'm just like, I can't believe all of this went on so much before me, way before me. And there comes a time where some of when you go back, you have babies that were born that still looked closely white, even though they had black in them because their mom was black, right? And so there comes that part where, you're not black, you're white, or you're not Hispanic, you're white. You know what I'm saying? So it's always that struggle there that I'm witnessing and being subjected to. And so sometimes I'm afraid to learn my history, because it's like, why, when people are still going to judge me by the color of my skin instead of the content of what my heart, right? And so it's just frustrating, but it was amazing to see that book at my mom's house, that has traveled so much, but now she keeps it guarded so it doesn't mess up any further.
And because you guys brought up a lot of great points, right? And Tina, the thing is, like, I know you're not from South Carolina, but now that you're here, the time that you've been here, like, I've been here for 45 years, and you're only experiencing a minuscule part of what we've had to deal with our entire lives. This is a racist ass state, and people would try to deny it, but the fact is, it is. So we had to learn at an early age, who we are in terms of black versus white. The difference is, my parents and grandparents didn't teach me to, I was taught to identify a white person, but I wasn't taught to I guess, treat a white person differently because they were white. Conversely, white kids were taught to treat us differently simply because of the color of our skin. So that's the primary difference. Also, when we talk about what we learned in school, Black History Month, I learned 3 things every single year, right? We learned that Lincoln freed the slaves.
I learned that.
Martin Luther King had a dream.
I learned that.
And Rosa Parks said
no. Rosa Parks wouldn't get up.
And that's all we learned.
You learned 4. And Harriet,
I learned about Harriet
people through the mud.
Yeah.
Harriet Tubman, right? Exactly. We talk about the Underground Railroad. So these are like, but they leave out other little details, right? Because the fact is, they didn't fuck with King until after he died. Because when he was alive, they had the FBI tapping him, trying to ruin his life and all these other things. So they were legit after him. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
there's a thing about that hook that's real different too. I'm gonna tell you something. You know why we didn't know half of that stuff? If you really dig back, when you were saying earlier, and I was being funny in my head, I didn't want to say it out loud because you'd have flicked me off. You were saying you researched Juneteenth when you was in college, and I was like, I bet he used the Encyclopedia Britannica, because you know that ain't no internet, right? But as funny as it is, the reality is you were limited to what you were going to learn, because that Encyclopedia Britannica was not going to tell you, let me tell you about the Willy Lynch letters. But when you got the good old Google, you was like, get the hell out of here. Did you really?
Absolutely. No, but you make a valid point though, because we, like, my grandparents had encyclopedias for days, but we were limited to what was inside those encyclopedias. Right. But nowadays You can go to the internet and you can find out anything that you want. And you guys kind of alluded to colorism earlier. It's still going on. You know, we talk about the Willy Lynch letters, divide and conquer. They knew that the best way to, they knew that if we all came together, we'd be unstoppable. But they knew that.
Three concepts in the Willy Lynch letter that I think we never knew. One of them was divide them all, men against women, light against dark. And we still battle with that. Black men feel they had a worse struggle. Black women feel they had a worse struggle. Then you take the black man out of the house. You pull him away. Why? Because that's not saying he's God, but that's our God. That's how we look for you for everything. You're my protector. You're my help. You're my this. You're my that. But if you take him out and you beat him down and you make him nothing, or you make him bounce from house to house to home to family because you are breeding him, you make him irrelevant. Then you go and you watch that black woman. What is she going to do? That man might leave you. That man might have this. I need you to be stronger. But what do you do to that boy? You coddle him because you realize the world's going to be hell on him. So what you get is you get softer women. You get harder women, softer men. Light don't like dark. Men got an issue with women. Women don't respect men. If you tear them up like that, you're going to have a whole bunch of boys acting like they don't want to fight, a whole bunch of girls that'll fight a nation. You have flipped their whole nation up, their whole generation upside down. And the letter said it will mess them up for generations to come. Well, look at here. It's 2021 and we're still out there talking about light skin niggas versus dark skin. We're still out there talking about black women versus black men. You at a marriage, your man is your opponent, not your teammate. You said we're doing it still. You had a whole situation between you ain't black enough to do the Juneteenth celebration, but
that's, you know what? People choose to be that way. I understand, you know, what you say about that letter and the trails and trails of things that have happened, but we choose to stay in a backyard era, and we need to stop that. We have the ability to make a difference.
We know better,
but we choose not to know better.
It's embedded in us.
So an example is my mom wasn't there for me growing up, right? Because of the things that she went through as a child, right? But the moment I had a child, I had to figure out, like, am I going to follow the same path? Like, there's got to be something better in motherhood. I got to figure this out because I can't fail her.
I can't do what she did.
The way I have been failed, right? You know, I was 17. I had 3 kids by the time I was 20. You understand what I'm saying? So I didn't want that for my kids. So I had to figure out how to make a difference. I had to learn. So I cannot continue to let people say to me, well, because of this, that's the way people are. People choose to be who they are by the choices that they make. I made a choice to have kids by the time I was 20. I did that. You understand what I'm saying? But I also had to figure out how to make that work. And if we
I gotta give it up to this generation. This generation we in now, you know, we're the middle child. We're the ones who watched the moral Bible Belt, you know, those people come through, and then we came through with technology. So we got a balance. But this new generation, like your daughters, oh, what you told me, Hook, earlier this week, I chose violence. They choose violence. They're not choosing that stuff. They're like, no.
Yeah.
I'm gonna love who I want to love. I'm gonna date who I want to date. I'm gonna do what I want to do. This is always my comparison. We were all told, turn that car light out while I'm driving. You're gonna give me a ticket. These little Negroes in the backseat, they be like, Siri, can you get a ticket for driving with your car light on? That's not illegal. They're not us. They're not us. So I give it to these kids. They do choose different. They're not harping on the same stuff. These kids are like, nah, and you're going to have to be mad. That's your problem. And I respect that because we didn't know we had it. Because, look, I'm going to hit you again. That Encyclopedia Britannica didn't tell us we had them rights.
Sure didn't.
It didn't tell me if I called DSS that she was in trouble. They told me I was going to get taken away and I ain't had nowhere else to go, so I just took it. They didn't tell us the stuff that Google tells us.
Even with that though, because obviously I think that we're a lot more knowledgeable now, especially these kids nowadays. But the fact is, we still got to be careful because at the end of the day, we're still Black. And the majority of the law enforcement, they're still white. So we do have to still we do have to let them know how they should and should not. You know, we got to have the talk. You know what I mean? Because I would rather you humble yourself. Because that's something I had an issue with growing up. Like, why I got to humble myself? He know better than me, but I had to learn. I had to understand that. So I got a nephew who's in Greenville. Greenville is fucking that's one of the reddest damn counties, cities here in South Carolina. So I gotta let him know, hey, listen, you're 6'1", 270 pounds. You're already a threat. You might be 19 years old, but you're still a threat, right? So I have to let him know that this is what you have to deal with. This is how you have to conduct yourself. It's not fair, but at the same time, it's simply one of those things we have to deal with. And now a question I do want to ask you guys though, like, because we got Juneteenth as Black Independence Day, and we got July 4th, obviously, as a national holiday. Do you guys think that we should celebrate one more than the other, or do you think it's perfectly acceptable to celebrate both in conjunction with each other?
I was free in June.
Oh,
I'm gonna eat your food in July. I was free in June.
yeah. I mean, I grew up celebrating 4th of July, but that was because that's what I was taught. Now that I know about Juneteenth, man, I go all out. Like you and the what we have planned for this entire week. I mean, I go all out. So for me, 4th of July, yes, I do get together. I get with my family, you know what I'm saying? We throw stuff on the grill. We get together, but that's because that's what we've always done as a family. But for Juneteenth though, that's a whole much louder ball game for me. Like it's the whole the whistles, the concerts, all of that. I mean, if I could shut South Carolina down for a whole day and just do whatever I wanted to do for Juneteenth, that's what I would do.
I mean, because the reality is we are Black, clearly.
No,
but
I'm not.
we're also Americans, clearly. So it's kind of like, I was born a Humphrey. I'm a Humphrey whether they like me or not. I'm an American whether you like me or not. And I'm Black whether you like it or not. So you can't, like Mioka said, you can celebrate both. At the end of the day, I will always say this: America's like our family. We may not like the way that she handled shit. We may not agree with everything that was done, but we are who we are and we are where we are. We here now.
Right.
So we can celebrate both. I can be proud to be an American, but I'm going to be just as proud to be Black.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to still call it the 4th of July. I ain't going to call it all the Independence Day stuff, but I can still enjoy both.
And that's kind of my thing too. Simply because I grew up celebrating the 4th, obviously. And to be honest, like I never celebrated the 4th thinking, "Oh my God, I'm so proud to be an American. I'm so proud to, red, white, and blue." Hell no, I celebrated it because
singing Frankie Beverly and Maze.
I had a day off for one. And two, we cooked out, we barbecued. So, it was a time for me to spend time with my family. So I'm still going to take advantage of that. But at the same time, my family that I'm creating, that I'm building, I want to make sure that we understand the significance of Juneteenth so that we can make sure that we incorporate that. And that kind of leads into my next question when we talk about our kids, right? So how should we talk to our kids about Juneteenth? Like, how should we talk to them about it?
You gotta tell them the truth. Like, that's the problem with some of us at times. We want to sugarcoat stuff and we want to put some band-aids here and there and think that and a little bit of Neosporin. We gotta stop doing that.
We can't hide it from them, Tina.
Huh?
They can Google it. We can't hide it from these kids.
Oh no, but I mean my girls, so my girls are 28, 20, 29. No, my girls are 28, 30, and 31. And so them jokers, I mean, they learn like I learned. Like when I was told about it, I went and talked to them about it. And every year they've been right there beside me, helping me with things. This year they decided that to celebrate Juneteenth, all of their friends who now have kids, that the 20 plus relationships, they're all going to Orlando. and they're all going to celebrate Juneteenth. They got an Airbnb, a big old one with a pool and everything, and they're going to celebrate Juneteenth among them. And that's that 31 and under crew. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I feel as though even though there's Google, you still got to have the conversation with your kids.
Yeah, talk
they
to
want to hear it from you. They get tired of searching. They want to hear it from you.
Talk to them. My babies are younger. I got 6, 9, and 14. Mm-hmm. But I don't, their mother has never been good at sugarcoating. I can add sprinkles, but I suck at sugarcoating. So we're going to talk it out. We're going to be honest about it. We're going to have conversations about this is who you are. We are going to have those uncomfortable but real talks on your level. But we're still going to have those talks because we have to. I mean, it's inevitable. You're going to find out one day anyway. I'm sorry to tell you. Congratulations, you're a Negro. Now, let's talk about it. And then keep on going. We can't sugarcoat this. Yes, I got to tell my son, you're going to have to humble thyself. Take this if you ever get pulled over, because I can fight harder for you when you get home than I can if you a hashtag. And I'm not doing that. I don't want a t-shirt that you wanted. God bless all the mothers that have, and I pray that God gives them strength and comfort. However, I don't want to have to do that. I pray God never has me to do that. I always want to be able to see my son come through the door. Then you let that pit bull come out there because she know how to do stuff a legal way that's going to shut the whole nation down. But do not become an example.
Right.
So you have to have that talk when he's 9 years old, not just like Hook said when he's 19 and he's 6 foot and he trying to figure out why they messing with me. No, grasshopper. I'm gonna talk to you while you 10, and I'm gonna tell you that you're still a man, but you are a wiser man. A wiser man makes it home at night and learns how to fight. You have to learn to bruise people without jabbing an arm, and that is a genius. But you have to start when they're little, not when they're grown and that testosterone is in them. That boy gonna listen to me then.
And that's one of the things that I can appreciate now that my girls are a little older. They're middle schoolers now, so I can have these tough conversations, and they can actually comprehend and understand where I'm coming from. And I have these talks with them, and this is why I preach to them so much. And they think I give them a hard time about their grades and stuff, but I'm like, you got to understand, like these little white friends you got, that's fine. You can I don't care. You can have a white boyfriend. You can have white friends. You can have whoever. I don't care about who you associate yourself with. But I need you to understand that they're on a different playing field than you are. So that's people aren't gonna. If it's a bunch of y'all together and y'all get in trouble, they're not gonna look at them. They're gonna look at you. And why are they gonna look at you? Because you're the one black girl. So they're gonna expect you to be, the troublemaker. So I let them know, hey, you got to understand who you are. You can befriend who you want to befriend, but at the same time, this is who you are. You're black, and these are some guidelines you have to live by. It's a tough conversation to have. It's not always easy, but they need to understand and they need to know, because they're getting at the age now where I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be there to protect them. I'm not going to be there for every single thing they need. But all I can do is impart my wisdom upon them and hope and pray that when they go out, they'll remember the lessons that we're teaching them here in the house, and then they can go out and they can do whatever it is they want to do.
It's realities versus possibilities.
Yeah,
yes, the reality is you check black. Reality is when you walk into a room, because you're assertive, because you're aggressive, because you're educated, because
you know how y'all black people go.
You already got a different thing on you. However, that does not limit your possibilities. You don't beg nobody for nothing. They don't want you in there, go build it. And I push for that one. You got a gift. You got something in you. You got a side of you. Go get it. Don't wait for nobody to hand you nothing. My son's so sick of hearing this. He said in his sleep, don't nobody want two things, a nasty man or a lazy one. I say it all the time. But my girls, ain't nobody going to give you nothing. You either going to go get it or you're going to be stuck without it. And I'm abrasive like that, and I'm assertive like that because they need to get used to it. I don't want my kids walking around this world waiting for a handout. I'm going to hand them stuff, but I don't want them waiting on handouts for the rest of their life. You got to go get it. There's a go-getter that's got to come out of you. I get that. You're black. I get that in that circle. You might be the one who they say is a troublemaker, but like we have seen them do before, you can go ahead and swipe your debit card without fear because I got you. Because you know what? They got them. No, you gonna
Absolutely.
get it from me because I got you. No, you gonna have this because I watch people have stuff while we go home and your mama tell you, don't go in that damn McDonald's and order up all that shit. You know how long I told my kids that? Nigga, it's McDonald's. What's the most they gonna get? $12? Order it.
Right.
We leave those restrictions on our kids. I don't care how black you are. Eat it, get it, buy it. We'll do it. Because we had to figure out how to get it on our own. And we are running around here with jobs that we're competing for, wondering how he got a job at 21 and we couldn't get the same job at 21 because we didn't have that stepping stool that they had because somebody told you got to learn how to get it yourself. You gonna have that stepping stool. Mama knows Tina knows these people know Hook, that knows that. Go in there and skip to supervisor. You ain't got to worry about answering nobody's phones.
Man, these kids got resources we ain't even have. And one of the biggest lessons I told my nephew is that, like, you ain't got to reach out to me and ask me for $100. Now, granted, if you ask me, I'm going to give it to you. But, like,
$100?
because we got, the thing is, we got like 50 million people in our family, right? I'm like, reach out to everybody and ask them for $10. You ask 10 people for $10 in one day, that's $100 right there. You do that twice a month, that's $200 a month, easy. You know what I'm saying? So like, but we didn't have that growing up. So I couldn't, just say to somebody, hey, give me $100 because they ain't really have it like that. You know what I'm saying? So we have to understand that we're in a position now. My goal right now at the age that I am is to really empower these kids and show them who the shadow crystal and show them
what age
and really because they're going to be and granted we're smart, but at the same time they're going to put us to shame, and they're the stuff that we want to do they're going to do. And before we head out, man, because we got a few minutes left, I want to ask, just in closing, so is there anything else you guys want to add relating to Juneteenth?
I guess if I can talk about what we're doing this week, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Sure.
So currently, the Juneteenth Festival in Columbia, South Carolina used to be just one day. The last 4 years, it was one day. This year, we made it into 7 days. So yesterday, we had a youth expo where we had the young CEOs of tomorrow come together with South Carolina Juneteenth Freedom Fest, and we had a big youth vendor explosion on Two Notch, which was great. The youth vendors, party spot, brought out the bounce houses, and we had a great time yesterday. Currently, I think it just ended maybe about 20 minutes ago or so. We had a statewide home buyers seminar that consisted of learning what you needed to know in order to purchase a home, as well as credit repair, different things like that. And we were fortunate and blessed to have Melinda Song Alford put that together underneath the Juneteenth umbrella. Tomorrow, there will be a town hall Zoom meeting. The young CEOs of tomorrow will come together and talk about education, how they've been affected with the education system in the state of South Carolina, as well as racism, jobs, different things like that when it comes to the youth. So that'll be tomorrow. On Wednesday, we will have a panel discussion about Juneteenth. We have some historians coming together, and we'll put that out, but they will discuss the meaning of Juneteenth, where we are today versus where we were back then. On Thursday, we will have our first meet, mix, and mingle at Perfectly Plated in St. Andrews. This is an opportunity for everyone to come together to meet the staff of Juneteenth Freedom Fest, as well as for us to get to know those that are within our community. On Friday, we will have our very first Juneteenth Gala Noir. This is the first of many. We will have 7 Sunday performing live. We will have a cash bar, cigar bar, heavy hors d'oeuvres by a 16-year-old Tyra, who was featured on Food Network. We will also have some surprises as well for some of our guests, as well as we will celebrate some of the community leaders who have gone above and beyond to become trailblazers within the community to make a way for those that are coming behind them. On Saturday from 1 to 8 at the Dutch Square Mall parking lot area, we will have our 5th annual Juneteenth Festival. We are so excited to have the Manhattans featuring Gerald Austin, Chubb Rock, as well as Nellie Tyer Travis. We will have 7 Sunday performing again as well. We will also have local artists, poetry, a fashion show. We have over 130 vendors that'll be set up from 1 to 8, food trucks, food vendors, merchandise. We also have a medical van, a bus that'll be out there to assist those when it comes to testing for diabetes, your heart, also COVID. You can get tested as well as receive vaccinations at the same time, possibly. But I know we'll have both. We'll have Comet out there with their bus. We'll have Honda, Midland Honda, who is also a sponsor. They'll have a couple of cars out there. We also have some job vendors out there who are looking to hire people as well. We'll also have individuals out there that will be coming together for therapists, social work. Any and everything that anyone is looking for will be at the festival at 421 Bush River Road from 1 to 8. And we look forward to seeing everyone out there.
Good stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
What about you, Chris?
It is a lot of stuff, and I'm excited to hear about it. I wish that everyone would take time, just like we go out to Soda City and everything else this weekend, take time to go get involved in stuff that's going on in the community. We have a Father's Day function all over the place. There's things that are going on from Sesqui to all over different parks. There's a lot of things going on at Dutch Square, where Tina mentioned. There are so many things that celebrate not just Black people, but Black men, because we're celebrating fathers. And by the way, Black fathers are a whole lot better and a whole lot more powerful than the world gives them credit for. So what I want this weekend is for everyone to take time off devices, out of the house, off the couch, grab your mask, check your COVID shots, whatever it takes you, but we all need to be outside this weekend. We need to celebrate and make it okay to be Black. We need to celebrate dads. We need to just get out and get involved and learn some stuff about ourselves that we did not know. We need to buy Black. We need to own being Black. We need to just enjoy and celebrate the freedom days of Black people.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you just alluded to next week's topic. Next week, we're going to be talking parenting, specifically Black fathers, and whether they're absent or present or whatever, we're going to be talking about Black parents as a whole, whether they're a step parent, if they're filling the void of that parent. So we're going to embrace those of us who are doing what we need to do, but at the same time, we're also going to have the tough conversation about those of us who could do better, and really holding each other accountable. So next week, we're talking parenting as it specifically relates to Black fathers. So again, this was a great conversation, guys. This is something that's long overdue, obviously. And Tina, I appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you're doing with Juneteenth. And anything that we can do to assist, please let us know, because we really want to help. Chris, as always, I appreciate your contributions. I appreciate everything you do.
I know you love me.
Thank you for holding me accountable and keeping me honest. So I love you, and thank you so much.
The older you get, I got to do it for you.
And for the audience, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again next week. Holla.
All right, good night.
Bye.